If you walk into a room and look at the standard thermometer hanging on the wall, you see a scale of numbers. At the top of the scale, you have what we call hot. At the bottom of the scale, you have what we call cold. They look like two completely different things. They feel like two completely different things. We write stories about them as if they are enemies fighting for control of the weather. But if you look at the thermometer with absolute scientific objectivity, where does hot end and where does cold begin? Is there a literal line on the glass where the temperature suddenly changes its identity? No, because hot and cold are not two separate physical things. They are the exact same phenomenon temperature, differing only in their degree of molecular vibration. This is the hidden structural design of our entire dual matrix. The fourth eternal law that governs this simulation is the law of polarity. The ancient axiom states everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. The control structures of this planet keep the masses trapped by forcing them to pick a side in a world of artificial opposites. They want you fighting the dark, chasing the light, and drowning in the illusion of conflict. Today, we are going to look at the mechanical blueprint of duality. We will break down how every truth is only a half-truth, how love and hate run on the exact same wire, and the precise protocol to locate the neutral center point where the illusion of polarity completely dissolves. Let's decode the fourth law. To understand the law of polarity, you must realize that what your senses register as opposite are actually just the two extreme ends of the exact same thing. Let's look at the emotional spectrum. Think about the relationship between love and hate. Most people believe they are complete opposites, but mechanically, they are the exact same emotional current. They both require intense focus, high voltage emotional energy, and deep psychological attachment to a person or an object. This is why it is incredibly easy for a person who deeply hates someone to suddenly shift back into intense love, or for a profound romance to instantly collapse into bitter resentment. The frequency hasn't changed its wire. The dial has simply slid from one extreme pole to the other. Do you know what the true opposite of love actually is? It isn't hate. It is indifference. Indifference is the complete removal of the wire itself. It is the absence of the current. Look across the entire layout of the simulation and we see this law written everywhere. Light and darkness are the same thing, the presence or absence of the exact same electromagnetic waveform. Spirit and matter, as we established in the last episode, are the same substance, differing only in their rate of vibration. Good and evil are simply human labels placed upon the constructive and destructive cycles of the universal field. Everything in the matrix is a paradox. Every truth you can speak on this physical plane is only a half-truth, because it requires its opposite pole to exist in order to be defined. Now, let's look at how this law is used within the matrix to manage human behavior. Because the masses do not understand the law of polarity, they are highly susceptible to an architectural manipulation tactic called the polarization trap. The simulation grid line thrives on friction. It requires the kinetic energy generated by human conflict. So, the control system constructs artificial binaries everywhere you look: left versus right, believer versus non-believer, us versus them. The moment your conscious lens fixes upon one pole and begins to violently fight the opposite pole, you are hooked into the circuit. If you become consumed by fighting the bad guys or destroying the dark, your focus and your emotional energy are actually feeding the very system you claim to oppose. By validating the opposite pole, you keep the entire wire alive and humming. This is why revolutions so often fail to change the underlying system. They simply swap the entities sitting at the poles, while the structure of the wire remains completely untouched. The machine keeps running on the exact same friction. To change the game, you cannot fight the opposite pole. You must step off the scale entirely. You must locate the fulcrum. So, how do we master the law of polarity? in our daily lives. How do we stop sliding helplessly between the emotion and mental extremes of the matrix? It requires a process called mental transmutation, the ability to consciously change the degrees of your own internal poles. There are two primary protocols to execute. As usual, Protocol 1, locating the neutral center point, the witness. When an external event occurs, a crisis, a loss, a sudden shift in your environment, the simulation is trying to force you to polarize into panic, fear, or anger. To execute this protocol, you must mentally step back into the position of the witness, look at the situation, and recognize that the event contains both poles simultaneously. Every crisis contains the exact geometric seed of an equal opportunity. Every loss is the clearing of space for an equal gain. Do not label the event as good or bad. Remain perfectly still at the center fulcrum of the scale. When you sit at the neutral center point, the external friction cannot catch your gears. You remain steady, holding your voltage while the storm passes around you. Protocol 2, manual polarization sliding. Because you understand that the opposites are identical in nature, you can use your conscious mind to manually slide your internal dial along the wire of any condition. If you find yourself sitting at the pole of fear, do not waste your energy trying to destroy the fear. That is impossible. It is part of the wire. Instead, apply the law of vibration and focus intensely on the opposite pole of the exact same wire. Courage. Change your mental input, adjust your chemical spine, and consciously breathe the energy toward a higher degree. You don't fight the darkness, you simply turn up the voltage of the light. You slide the degree along the same mathematical scale until the lower frequency naturally dissolves the higher one. The matrix is a game of mirrors. It wants you to believe the illusion of separation. It wants you to keep fighting shadows on the wall. Stop picking side in an artificial theater. Step back to the center column. Become the master of the paradox. When you hold a neutral center point within your own psyche, you stop being an accidental piece of metal tossed back and forth by the tides of life. You become the immovable pivot point around which the entire simulation must rotate. Now we have decoded the fourth eternal law, the law of the two poles. We are ready to look at how these poles swing back and forth over time. In our next episode, we are going to dive deep into the fifth foundational law, the law of freedom. We will look at the mechanics of the cosmic pendulum. We will break down how everything flows, out and in, how all things rise and fall, and the exact operational protocol to neutralize the backward swing of life, so you never have to fall back into the valleys of stagnation again. Keep your center steady, stay sovereign. I will see you in the next layer of the matrix. This is Timeless Flame.